Pawel Wodkowski, From Checkbox to Culture, Scaling Accessibility for 500 Plus Designers. Alicamp. Gold sponsors ANZ, Intopia and Telstra. Silver sponsors Canva and Coles. Supporters Rumour, the design recruiter.
Hi. Thanks, Sarah. Good day, Melbourne. I'm here to share a story how in our design organization we are moving from ticking the accessibility box to a culture where accessible choices happen every day, slowly. I will show you what worked for us in Atlassian and how a designer like me doing program work helped make it real. I'm Pawel. I'm a lead designer in design system accessibility in a small startup called Atlassian. I'm from Sydney, which explains why I'm wearing shorts today. That was not a good choice.
What did you come to Melbourne with?
She knows, Crocs. On Sunday it was raining. Outside work, I teach Zumba in Sydney. This week I left my students to be here with you. And actually being an instructor is going to be a very relevant part of this presentation. You will see in a second. Don't worry, we won't be dancing today, at least not now, although we are trying to convince Sarah to do a Zumba class tomorrow in the morning. We'll see what. If you are curious about my accent, I'm Polish. I moved to Sydney 3 years ago. I've been in Atlassian for a very long time, 9 years, 3 months, and 4 days, exactly. Long enough to see what sticks and what doesn't. And in 2019, we did our first big accessibility project in Atlassian. I was in Jira Data Center, and we started solving accessibility bugs in Jira. And at that time, I actually thought that it will take us about a year to fix the backlog. We will clean everything, we will be done, I can move to other things. So I've been doing accessibility since. That's over 6 years now, about 2/3 of my Atlassian career. And honestly, I realized that when I was doing this presentation, when I was preparing, and I got blown away by like 6 years of doing accessibility, probably 4 of these years wrong. But now I'm getting slowly better. Like many of you, accessibility folks in Atlassian are required to wear many hats in their teams, especially when we are growing new initiatives. So I'm a designer. Sometimes I'm a design ops specialist, and more often I'm a program manager, and I'm now looking at my program managers from Atlassian. And Atlassian has been transitioning, as the title of this talk says, from checkbox to a culture. Since in 2019, we started fixing our first accessibility bugs. And that transition from checkbox to culture concerns all organizations, small and large, digital and traditional. And let me define those for you so we're on the same page. So checkbox thinking is when teams meet requirements, but don't change the way they work. You pass the test today, and tomorrow looks the same in terms of processes. Culture is when the habits lives in teams. People know what good looks like, what's the default, and you don't need to be a hero every day. And on our way from checkbox to culture, in the design organization, we've done a lot. We grew our capabilities with role-based training, adding accessibility to growth profiles, and started training our own accessible design specialists, a group of people in teams that we embed and that help us build that accessibility muscle. We now have 50 of them in our teams. We baked accessibility into our design early with checklists, Figma annotations, and simple tooling. And we support people with extensive documentation. And we are continuing to do more and more, exploring new tools, improvements, including experimenting with AI as well. For example, we have an AI agent based on our product that answers accessibility questions. And now I have to mention that because we have the GAD founders, so every year for GAD we are organizing a big accessible design week where we celebrate, we share documents, presentations, and do workshops together. And we also measure a lot. For example, we track our practices, our accessible design practices, with this compound metric called Effective Accessibility Adoption Score, EAS for short. And it blends three signals: annotations showing in our Figma files, a healthy specialist to designer ratio, which is around 10:1, and training completion, which is our shared language of information. Yeah. Quarter by quarter, the score climbs, which, it told us that our practices were spreading. Our FY24 baseline was 24. The end of FY24 was 71 points out of 100, and at the end of the last financial year, we got to 85 out of 100, which was right between our 0.7 and 1 OKR score for this year. So I kind of imagine myself in this situation as being this happy Lego figure shouting, everything is awesome, right? And it looked that way, yeah? Until we asked a different question. The teams were doing more accessibility work, but the testing also found more issues. Leader asked me, is quality actually improving for customers? And I realized I wasn't measuring the right things. I was measuring the activity and adoption, not outcomes, yes, and not quality. So I was actually a sad Lego figure. In Poland, we have this saying, painting the grass green. I don't know if this is popular in Australia, but especially in Europe, in the eastern part of Europe, in Soviet Union, in the past, they were figuratively painting grass green, like putting new buildings, like facades of buildings when the government officials came for visits. So I was actually thinking whether I'm just making my measurements to look good instead of checking on the real situation. So I stepped back and asked myself, okay, what really changes behavior in a busy organization? And I looked at what I have. I had a group of people who were really interested in accessibility, designers and content designers who wanted to be specialists, who wanted to specialize in accessibility, who were helping me day by day in their local teams. I had the expectations laid out in the growth profiles. And I also had support from leadership. And I turned to one thing that has been for me for a long time, and that's the Zumba stuff. Because I'm great at bringing people together, and I know that. I built 2 communities already, one in Poland and now one in Sydney, my Zumba communities. Here on the screen you can see a couple of pictures, 4 pictures. First 2 on top are from Poland. The first one actually is us dancing during pandemic in the middle of winter in a snowstorm. Minus 10 degrees Celsius, and we were still dancing. The bottom is actually our Bronte Beach Zumba, and the last one is from last week. Nowadays, I'm bringing my passion to a group of people in Sydney, and I wanted to bring the same passion for design and accessibility to Atlassian. So I started building a new community, or building community on the things I already had. Bringing together like-minded people who can work toward a shared goal, community. Yeah, we can't do accessibility alone. Even if we sometimes think we know the best, all the WCAG rules and everything about accessibility, we can't do it alone. Just can't. We need to build community around us of people like-minded in our organizations. I will speak slower. Sorry. And because I already had this loose group of 50 accessible design specialists, I decided to formalize it. So since last year, the group has been more structured than a typical community of practice. There is a formal lead, me, and a regular meeting of cadence of meeting. I also had the expectations in the growth profiles. So what we started doing, we started syncing with specialists, managers, outlining these expectations. And because I still had the leadership support, we announced another cohort to join our ranks. And we are now training 11 more specialists. But I did also one more thing. I started to listen. So we added this very tiny listening loop called Specialist Pulse. It's like a very lightweight engagement framework aimed to do 3 things: to track motivation, to surface risks, and to empower specialists to give us feedback and to run the program with us together. So every quarter, we run 2 short surveys, and then in the month 3, we run a retrospective, and then also in month 3, we run a manager survey to verify the results against what the specialists tell us. And then at the end, I come up with a quarterly report. It's light, but regular, and just enough to learn and adjust. And I want to show you the surveys that we ran recently. So we ask specialists 3 simple things: how confident they are, how supported they are, and how motivated they are. We also ask them for 1 word that captures the specific month. The word often tells the story more than a chart, and usually they write more than 1 word. And then we ask managers about the specialist contributions, about how awareness is shifting in teams, and about the alignments with teams' priorities. We also ask for concrete examples so we can share them further with the leadership. And the best thing about that pulse is that the data challenged a couple of my personal assumptions. Because I thought that the low attendance in session didn't mean that, I thought that the low attendance in sessions means that the motivation is low. But it was actually opposite. So 8 people told me in the latest survey that are they motivated or very motivated. I also thought that lack of engagement in community means that they don't work in teams. But when we ask managers, the managers told that 9 specialists out of the survey influence the team awareness or consideration of accessibility. So pretty good result. Yeah? I also learned that 11 of them felt either confident or very confident in delivering accessible designs. At the beginning of the program, that number was 0. Yeah? And that actually, helped me feel good as a very happy Lego figure. But of course, some of my assumptions got confirmed. Time is a constraint always. So we made an adjustment to make the meetings not weekly, but fortnightly now. So we give them a bit more breathing room. How am I on time? Okay. Because I'm in conclusion now. I'm that fast today. Jesus Christ. It never happened in history. Last time, Sarah was next to me trying to stop me talking. In conclusion, you can't do accessibility alone. It multiplies through teamwork. The best way, in my opinion, to move from a checkbox to a culture is through community. Find the community model that fits your organization. Maybe it's going to be a champions program. Maybe you can bake it into design growth profiles as we did and make a specialization. Maybe it's just a very lightweight community of practice. But find your way and choose what works for you. And don't build the community for yourself. This is a mistake I did at the beginning. I built it for myself because I needed help. So I thought that this is for me. No, it wasn't for me. It was for them. I was just a vehicle to help them, not for them to help me. Because I also thought that my specialist as subject matter expert is going to be the same as their experience as product designers in teams, and that's completely different. And I had to listen first, understand their needs and their context, and then build that program based on that. And finally, don't fail like me. Don't use metrics to inform, not as your goal. Yeah, and always remember to supplement the numbers with qualitative data. Include open questions to learn more. Even if it's just 1 word, it will be very valuable. Thank you very much.
AliCamp, celebrating 10 years.